My name is Jackson Cole, a lead surgeon. I just dropped dead during a 72-hour ER shift. When I woke up, I was in a novel, a pretty boy acting major, $3 million in the hole. The moment I came to, loan sharks were kicking down the door. Take one of his legs. I thought I was dead for sure, but then the miracle healer system activated. The only thing it gave me was divine touch? What the hell good is that? Just as I was resigning myself to my fate, a femme fatale in a silk dress tossed down a check for $3 million. Scram. She then slapped a contract in front of me. From now on, you are CEO Serafina Vance's private physical therapist. If you can't cure her, you'll be swimming with the fishes. I looked at the contract. Damn it. Out of the frying pan and into the fire. The method of treatment? A mandatory 1-hour deep tissue massage every single night. 1. VR a violent headache like someone was driving a power drill into my temples. Jackson Cole's eyes flew open. He wasn't staring at the familiar ceiling of a hospital room, but at a ridiculously expensive crystal chandelier. Holy crap, this light fixture has to be worth 6 figures. He shot up, his eyes scanning the room. This wasn't his dump of an apartment. This was a luxury penthouse, minimalist in style, but every piece of furniture screamed, I'm obscenely expensive. Wasn't I on call in the ER? I just worked 72 hours straight and died of cardiac arrest, right? Jackson pinched his thigh. A sharp pain shot through him. This wasn't a dream. Just then, a cold, emotionless electronic voice exploded in his mind. Ding. Host soul compatibility detected at 100%. Miracle healer system activated, distributing newbie gift pack. Congratulations, host, you have acquired divine touch, beginner. Jackson was stunned. System? Divine touch? I'm a goddamn lead surgeon, and you give me a massage technique? Are you looking down on me? Host, this system's objective is to cultivate the strongest miracle healer in the universe. Therapeutic massage is the foundation of all master healers. Yeah, you're the boss. Just as Jackson was about to complain, a torrent of memories that didn't belong to him flooded his mind, overwhelming his senses. His name was also Jackson Cole, 22 years old, a dropout from NYU's Tisch School of the Arts. That's right, you read that correctly. A drama student. This guy had been coasting on a face so handsome it was practically a crime, running a scam under the banner of a family legacy holistic healer to swindle rich socialites. Turns out his medical knowledge was non-existent. He'd been exposed and now... Oh, hell no. Jackson flipped open a ledger on the table, his pupils constricting. Loan sharks. $3 million? The memories showed that the original owner of this body had squandered all the money he'd scammed, robbing Peter to pay Paul until the interest ballooned to this astronomical figure. Ding. Detecting host's current situation. Extreme danger. Issuing main quest. The only cure. Quest objective. Cure the Ice Queen CEO, Serafina Vance. Quest description. Host has transmigrated into the novel, the CEO's $10 billion trophy, becoming a cannon fodder character of the same name. You must become the only cure for Serafina Vance, who suffers from the Frost Shard curse. Quest reward. Quest failure. Annihilation. Serafina Vance? The CEO's $10 billion trophy? Jackson was dumbfounded. He'd seen one of his patients reading that book. He'd glanced at a few pages. Serafina Vance, the primary supporting female character, head of the most powerful financial dynasty in New York, a ruthless and cold-blooded Ice Queen CEO with immense power. The deadliest part was that she suffered from a terminal illness, the Frost Shard curse. When it flared up, her entire body would be racked with a bone-chilling cold, causing unimaginable pain. And in the original novel, this cannon fodder Jackson Cole was thrown into the Hudson River to feed the fish by Serafina's bodyguards after bragging that he could cure her, and, predictably, failing. Bang, bang, bang. Just then, the penthouse door was pounded with thunderous force. Cole, pay up. You don't pay today, we take a leg. A gruff voice roared from outside. The loan sharks. Jackson's scalp tingled. Loan sharks at the door, system-enforced annihilation breathing down his neck. The universe really wanted him dead. Damn it, I'll take my chances. Jackson took a deep breath. His only hope now was this divine touch. He rushed to the door, about to speak. Crack. With a deafening crash, the expensive solid wood door was kicked clean off its hinges. Amidst the splintering wood, 7 or 8 thugs brandishing bats and pipes stormed in, their faces twisted in menace. The leader, a bald man with a thick gold chain that could blind a man, sneered. Kid, you good at hiding, huh? Jackson's heart hammered against his ribs. He forced himself to stay calm. Gentlemen, if you could just give me a few more days. Give you my ass. The bald man waved his hand. Get him. Just leave him breathing. just as a bat was about to connect with his skull. Stop. A woman's voice, colder than ice and sharper than a winter wind, came from the doorway. The thugs froze mid-swing. Standing in the doorway, having appeared out of nowhere, was a woman in a black power suit and gold-rimmed glasses. Her presence was so powerful that she alone suppressed the entire room. Who the hell are you? The bald man stammered, intimidated. The woman ignored him, her gaze landing squarely on Jackson's face, assessing him like a piece of merchandise. Jackson Cole, 22, Tish Dropout, claims to be the heir to a line of master healers. With every word she spoke, Jackson's heart sank further. This woman was clearly one of Seraphina Vance's people. Seeing the situation, the bald man's bravado returned. Stay out of this. He owes us money. No one's taking him anywhere until he pays. The woman adjusted her glasses, pulled a check from her purse, and casually tossed it on the floor. 3 million. Scram. The bald man's eyes nearly popped out of his head when he saw the number on the check. He scrambled to pick it up, blew on it, held it up to the light, then bowed obsequiously. That'll do, that'll do. Sorry for the interruption. Please continue. The crew arrived fast and left even faster. Soon, only Jackson and the cold, elegant woman remained. Hello, Mr. Cole. The woman extended a hand, her face devoid of expression. My name is Lila Reed. I am CEO Seraphina Vance's executive assistant. Jackson didn't dare to shake her hand. He gave a dry laugh. Ms. Reed, hello. Lila withdrew her hand, unfazed, and opened a file folder. Ms. Vance has paid off all your debts. In exchange, from this moment on, you will become Ms. Vance's exclusive, private, physical therapist. Jackson played dumb. You are well aware of Ms. Vance's condition. Lila's gaze was as sharp as a scalpel. You claimed your ancestral massage technique could cure her. Well, we don't care what methods you use, nor do we care who you were before. Lila cut him off, her tone icy. Ms. Vance only requires results. She handed him a contract. Sign it. You don't have the right to refuse. Jackson took the contract, his hands trembling. This wasn't a contract. It was an indenture agreement. He looked at the draconian clauses, then at Lila's uncompromising glare, and finally gritted his teeth. I'll sign. If he didn't, he'd die right now. If he did, with the system's help, he might just have a fighting chance. Lila nodded in satisfaction, taking back the contract. Very good. Now come with me. To where? To Ms. Vance's estate. Lila glanced at him, adding, starting tonight, you are required to perform one treatment session for Ms. Vance every evening until she is fully recovered. Half an hour later, a black Rolls-Royce Phantom glided silently into a sprawling super estate in the Palisades, with a security level comparable to the White House. Holy hell! Peering through the window, Jackson watched as black-suited guards patrolled with German shepherds, stationed every few yards. His throat went dry. This was an estate? It looked more like a military base. The novel said Seraphina Vance was powerful, but it never said she was this powerful. The car stopped in front of a main villa that resembled a palace. Lila led him out, rattling off the rules in a monotone as they walked. This is the Vance estate, not your home. First, don't look at what you're not supposed to see. Second, don't ask what you're not supposed to ask. Third, without Ms. Vance's permission, do not take a single step out of your room. Understood. Jackson nodded like a bobblehead. Are you kidding me? With security like that outside, if he dared to wander, he'd probably be shot on sight. Walking into the villa, Jackson was stunned once again. If the security outside was hardcore, the inside was obscenely opulent. A grand hall spacious enough to play basketball and was dominated by an abstract painting he didn't recognize. But he did recognize the signature in the corner. Picasso. Ms. Reed, you've returned. An old butler in a tuxedo approached and bowed respectfully. Where is Ms. Vance? In the heated pool. Take him there, Lila said, gesturing to Jackson. The heated pool? Jackson's heart skipped a beat. You gotta be kidding me. This is intense. The first meeting is in a pool. The butler led Jackson down a long corridor to a pair of massive glass doors. Steam swirled within, and the sound of trickling water could be heard. Mr. Cole, Ms. Vance is waiting for you inside. Please, the butler said with a gesture, but he himself remained outside the door. Jackson swallowed hard and pushed the doors open. A wave of warm, humid air washed over him. It was a massive indoor pool, the water surface as still as a sapphire. And in the center of the pool, a figure was floating quietly on the water. No, not floating. She was sitting in a specially made wheelchair that floated on the water surface. The woman wore a white silk robe, her long hair, cascading down like a waterfall. In the steam, her skin was so pale it was almost translucent. Her eyes were closed, her features so exquisite they didn't seem real, like God's own masterpiece of sculpture. But the chilling aura that kept everyone at a distance could freeze a person from 30 feet away. This was Seraphina Vance, the most powerful and the most solitary woman in this world. "You're Jackson Cole?" She didn't open her eyes. Her voice drifted through the mist, cool, ethereal, with a hint of pained hoarseness. Yes, Ms. Vance." Jackson was so nervous his palms were sweating. Her presence was infinitely more intimidating than any department head or hospital director he had ever met. "You said you can cure me." It was a statement, not a question. It's an ancestral massage technique. It's remarkably effective for your kind of cold syndrome." Jackson had no choice but to keep up the bluff. Heh. Seraphina suddenly chuckled. The sound was soft, but made Jackson's blood run cold. "The last person who said that to me, his name was Zhang, a world-renowned holistic master." Seraphina slowly opened her eyes. What kind of eyes were they? Devoid of all emotion, like two black diamonds, icy and sharp. "He performed acupuncture on me 3 times. After that, his hands were crippled." A bolt of terror shot through Jackson. "Ms. Vance, mine is different. It's physical therapy, no needles involved." "Is that so?" Seraphina's gaze fell upon him. "Lila should have told you the rules. I don't care what method you use. I only want results." She paused, her voice dropping lower. "Cure me, and you can do whatever you want in New York City. Fail to cure me." She didn't finish, but Jackson understood. Fail, and he'd be taking a permanent swim in the Hudson. I'll do my best." "I don't need your best, Seraphina," cut him off. "I'm giving you 3 days. In 3 days, I want to see results. If I don't..." Before she could finish, she let out a pain grunt. Seraphina's body suddenly curled into a ball. The blood drained from her breathtakingly beautiful face, leaving it deathly pale. A visible layer of white frost spread rapidly across the water's surface, originating from her. The frost shard curse. "It's flaring up," Jackson realized in horror. "Ms. Vance." Lila and the butler, hearing the commotion from outside, burst into the room. "Quick, the tranquilizers. Where's the medical team?" Lila yelled in a panic. "It's useless." Seraphina gritted out the words through clenched teeth, her forehead beaded with cold sweat. "The tranquilizers. They don't work anymore." Her body was trembling violently, as if countless ice needles were piercing her bone marrow. "Jackson Cole." Lila suddenly turned on him, her eyes red, staring at him with deadly intensity. "Didn't you say you could cure her? Do it. Now. Right now." Jackson was panicking too. This real-world test came way too fast. Ding. Target Seraphina Vance's vital signs are dropping rapidly. Newbie quest triggered. First treatment. Quest requirement. Immediately use divine touch to alleviate the target's pain. Quest reward. Host's physical constitution enhancement. Beginner. The system's voice was Jackson's only lifeline. He looked at Seraphina, who was on the verge of passing out from the pain in her wheelchair, and gritted his teeth. "Screw it, death or glory." He roared. "Don't come any closer. The water conducts the cold energy. You'll get frostbite if you get near." As he yelled, he kicked off his shoes and, with a splash, jumped into the pool. Bone-chillingly cold, the water felt like it was below freezing. Jackson shivered, but with a system quest on the line, he couldn't hesitate. He swam desperately toward Seraphina. "What are you doing? Get away from me." Seraphina was still conscious enough to protest, her voice sharp. The cold energy from her body could harm people. "Ms. Vance, my apologies." Jackson reached her side, grabbed her icy wrist with one hand, and slammed his other hand onto her back. "Divine touch, let's go." The instant Jackson's palm made contact with Seraphina's back, a massive stream of information, accompanied by a strange, indescribable sensation, flooded his brain. Target: Seraphina Vance. Condition: Frost Shard Curse Advanced. Cause: unknown cold toxin has invaded the heart meridian, causing chronic blockage. Blood flow is 300% slower than normal. Current status: cold toxin eruption. Vital signs critical. Holy crap. Jackson was floored. This divine touch came with a built-in X-ray and diagnostic function. This was better than a CT scanner. Under his divine sense, Seraphina's thin silk robe might as well have not been there. He could clearly see the muscles under her skin, tense from the excruciating pain, the blood vessels constricted by the cold, and the terrifying black, chilling energy rampaging through her spine. "That's it. Get Away. Seraphina's teeth chattered. What little consciousness she had left was rejecting the touch of a strange man. She despised being touched by men more than anything in the world. Ms. Vance. Hold on. Jackson didn't dare let go. If he did, they'd both probably freeze to death in here. Seraphina arched her neck back, letting out a pained scream. She felt it. A current of warmth. An unprecedented, warm, almost electric current was flowing from Jackson's palm, pouring continuously into her nearly frozen back. The feeling was incredible. It was like being in a blizzard at 40 below and suddenly sinking into a hot spring. The chilling energy that had been ravaging her bone marrow retreated like mice from a cat the moment it encountered this warmth. What is? On the shore, Lila and the butler were speechless. What were they seeing? The layer of white frost on Ms. Vance's body was melting. Jackson, at this moment, felt like he could fly. Ding! Divine touch, automatically locking onto Feng Min, Fei Shu, and Xin Shu pressure points. Treatment plan generated. Utilize Yang Fire technique to clear the cold energy from the Du Meridian. He didn't even need to move on his own. His hands seemed to be guided by an invisible force, pressing and kneading Seraphina's back with a profound rhythm. Every touch was perfect. Every ounce of pressure was applied precisely to the most critical points. Wherever the warmth passed, the blocked meridians were instantly cleared. Seraphina's tense body gradually relaxed. On her deathly pale face, a hint of blush miraculously appeared. She couldn't help but let out a tiny, almost inaudible sound of pleasure. Though quiet, the sound carried clearly across the vast, silent pool to everyone's ears. Lila, the butler, Jackson. What the hell? What was that? Seraphina instantly realized what sound she'd made. Her face, which had just regained some color, flushed crimson. It was mortification. She, Seraphina Vance, the Queen of New York, had actually made a sound like that in front of man. You're dead. She tried to push Jackson away, but her body was betraying her. Jackson's fingers were currently pressing on a key point on her back, and a numbing, warm sensation made her entire body go limp, unable to exert any strength. Ms. Vance, don't move. The cold energy hasn't fully receded. Jackson was getting anxious too. If this lady threw a fit now, the cold would backlash, and they'd both be done for. Seraphina bit her lip, torn between shame and anger, but the warmth was just too comfortable. For the first time in over 20 years, she felt what warmth was like. 5 minutes later, Jackson let out a long breath and slowly removed his hands. He was so exhausted he was about to collapse. This divine touch seemed incredible, but consumed a massive amount of stamina. As for Seraphina in his arms, she had gone completely still. Oh crap, don't tell me. Jackson's heart clenched in panic. He looked down. Seraphina was leaning against his shoulder, her breathing steady, her eyelashes fluttering slightly. Her icy face now held a trace of satisfied flush. She had actually fallen asleep from the sheer comfort of it. Ding. Newbie quest. First treatment completed. Evaluation. Perfect. Quest reward. Host's physical constitution enhancement, beginner, has been distributed. Instantly, a warm current spread through Jackson's limbs. His fatigue vanished. He felt like he could take down a bull right now. Ms. Vance? Lila ventured cautiously from the shore, afraid to disturb the scene. Ahem. Jackson cleared his throat. Ms. Vance has overworked herself. She's fallen asleep. Lila and the butler exchanged a look, both seeing the shock in each other's eyes. Falling asleep during an episode? What kind of joke was that? Every time Ms. Vance had an attack, it was like a trip through hell. It was a good outcome if she didn't pass out from the pain. She was always left half dead. Today she had fallen asleep. This con man named Jackson Cole. No, this miracle healer. Who in the world was he? What are you gawking at? Don't you think it's cold? Get Ms. Vance out of the water. Jackson was shivering uncontrollably. Yes. Lila quickly directed 2 maids, who carefully lifted Seraphina from the wheelchair, wrapped her in thick blankets, and carried her back to her bedroom. Jackson was also pulled out, wrapped in a blanket, and handed a large mug of ginger tea. Mr. Cole. Lila's attitude had done a complete 180. She walked up to Jackson and bowed deeply. I apologize. I was blind to your abilities before. Please forgive me. Jackson waved his hand. It's fine. No harm done. He was feeling pretty pleased with himself. The system was legit. His life for now was safe. Lila straightened up, her gaze on Jackson shifting from suspicion to fervent admiration. Mr. Cole, your room has been prepared. However, she hesitated, a flicker of uncertainty on her face, but she finally steeled herself and said, however, Ms. Vance's condition could flare up at any time. For her safety, I was wondering if tonight you could. Jackson's heart skipped a beat. Could what? Lila took a deep breath and said something that nearly made Jackson's eyes pop out of his head. Could you sleep in Miss Vance's room tonight? 4. Say what? The mug of ginger tea in Jackson's hand slipped, shattering on the floor. Me? Sleep in her room? Ms. Reed, isn't that inappropriate? Mr. Cole, you misunderstand. Lila's face reddened as she quickly explained. What I mean is, Ms. Vance's master suite is connected to a separate lounge, specifically prepared for her live-in medical staff. She pointed towards the second floor, speaking urgently. You've seen how dangerous Ms. Vance's condition is. The previous medical teams couldn't react in time, even with monitors. Only you can alleviate her suffering immediately. So, you want me to stay next door and be a 24/7 panic button? Jackson finally understood. Yes, Lila nodded emphatically. Your compensation will be raised to the highest level. An annual salary of... No, a monthly salary. $1 million a month. Is that acceptable? $1 million a month? Jackson gasped. The depravity of capitalism. As a surgeon, he'd worked himself to the bone for 20 grand a month. Here, as a therapist, he was being offered $1 million a month. Ahem. Jackson cleared his throat and said righteously, Ms. Reed, what kind of talk is that? Saving lives is a healer's duty. To speak of money is so vulgar. Lila was taken aback. However, Jackson's tone shifted. He rubbed his hands together and grinned. Since it's a token of Ms. Vance's sincerity, it would be rude of me to refuse. Lila. This man's personality shifted fast. Then it settled. Lila breathed a sigh of relief. Mr. Cole, let me show you to your room. Your luggage. Oh no, all of your daily necessities will be provided for at the highest standard. Jackson followed Lila to the second floor. Seraphina's master suite was at the end of the hall, its door looking like the entrance to a bank vault. Mr. Cole, this is your lounge. Lila opened a smaller door next to the main one. Jackson peeked inside. Holy hell, this was a lounge? This was bigger than the 2-bedroom apartment he'd rented before he transmigrated. Floor-to-ceiling windows, an en-suite bathroom, a fully integrated smart home system, and a king-size Simmons bed. Your room and Ms. Vance's bedroom are separated by a soundproof door. Lila pointed to a red button on the wall. If Ms. Vance has an episode, she'll press the buzzer. An alarm will sound in here, and you must be by her side within 10 seconds. 10 seconds. Yes. Lila's expression turned serious. The first 10 seconds of an attack are the golden window for treatment. Any later, and even a god couldn't save her. Jackson's anxiety returned. It seemed that $1 million monthly salary wasn't going to be easy money. All right, please get some rest. The butler will bring your dinner. With that, Lila hurried off. She still had to manage the follow-up monitoring of Seraphina's vitals. Jackson was alone in the room. He dove face first onto the impossibly soft bed and let out a groan of pure comfort. Damn, this is the life. Transmigration, a system, $3 million in debt. An Ice Queen CEO, $1 million a month. This one day had been more thrilling than his entire previous 28 years combined. System, he called out in his mind, lying on the bed. What's the deal with that physical constitution enhancement, beginner? Replying to host, physical constitution enhancement, beginner, has increased your strength, speed, and endurance to 1. 5 times that of a normal adult male. Only 1. 5 times. That's it. The system seemed to be at a loss for words. Jackson pouted, got up, and walked to the bathroom. In the mirror, he saw a devastatingly handsome face. Sharp brows, striking eyes, a high-bridged nose, and skin better than a supermodel's. TSK, the original owner of this body, could have made a killing with his looks, but he had to be a con artist. Jackson squeezed his arm. It didn't look particularly muscular, but he could feel the explosive power contained within one. 5 times is better than nothing, I guess. As he was admiring himself, a piercing alarm suddenly blared throughout the estate. Intruder. Intruder. Sector B, Gate A. Repeat, Sector B, Gate A. The shouts of guards, and the barking of dogs erupted outside. Jackson's heart jumped. He rushed to the window. Outside, the floodlights on the lawn snapped on. A man in a black tactical suit, moving with the agility of a monkey, was attempting to scale the estate's high-voltage fence. Holy crap, an assassin. Jackson was dumbfounded. Thwump, thwump. 2 muffled shots. The guards were firing, using tranquilizer guns. The assassin was incredibly agile. He rolled on the ground, dodging the darts, but was quickly surrounded by the patrolling dogs. Mace, take your team. A bald, heavily muscled man in a black tank top charged forward with 7 or 8 guards. Jackson recognized the bald man. He was Seraphina's head of security, Mace Hogan, supposedly a retired Delta Force operator. Trapped between the dogs and the guards, the assassin had no escape. In seconds, Mace took him down with a shoulder throw, slamming him hard onto the ground and subduing him. Damn it, it's these bastards again. Mace spat on the ground, cursing viciously. Drag him away. Interrogate him. I want to know who sent him. Watching from the window, Jackson's heart pounded. Just how many enemies did Seraphina have? A terminal illness and assassins, too. It seemed her position as the Queen of New York wasn't so secure after all. Beep, beep, beep. At that moment, the alarm in Jackson's room, without any warning, let out a piercing shriek. A red light flashed frantically. It was Seraphina's buzzer. Crap. Jackson jumped, startled. 10 seconds. 10 seconds. Lila's warning was the only thing in his mind. Without a second thought, he charged toward the soundproof door connecting to the master suite. He slammed the door open with a bang. Ms. Vance, what's wrong? He burst into the ridiculously large, minimalist to the point of sterile bedroom. Seraphina was half reclined on the bed, the blanket having slipped to reveal one silk-robed shoulder. She wasn't having an attack. She was holding a tablet, looking at him with an icy expression. 3 seconds, Seraphina stated calmly. Jackson froze. From the moment the alarm rang until you burst in, it took you 3 seconds. Not bad. Seraphina's tone was like she was praising a well-trained dog. Jackson's face instantly darkened. Ms. Vance, you're messing with me? I was merely testing if my medical alert system is as responsive as my security system. Seraphina emotionlessly set down her tablet. Jackson was so angry he almost coughed up blood. I thought you were dying again. I practically ran out of my pants, and you're running a damn stress test? Very good. Seraphina seemed pleased with his reaction. It appears Lila's arrangement was the correct one. As she spoke, she fixed her icy gaze on Jackson and said something that left him completely petrified. Jackson Cole, starting tonight, you will sleep in here. She wasn't pointing to the adjacent lounge. She was pointing to the corner of her bedroom, at a small, single bed that looked like it was meant for a servant. 5. Ms. Vance, what is that supposed to mean? Jackson's expression was grim. Sleep in her bedroom? On that tiny, pathetic bed? I'm making $1 million a month, not signing up to be your live-in valet. It means exactly what it sounds like. Seraphina's tone was flat, as if she were stating the obvious. You saw the assassination attempt just now. As of this moment, the estate is on level 1 alert. Her cold gaze swept over Jackson. You are my cure, which also makes you my biggest weakness right now. Jackson was taken aback. I cannot let you out of my sight. Sleeping in here is the safest option, she added. Safest. Jackson laughed, a bitter, angry sound. Ms. Vance, you're a single woman, and you're telling me to sleep in your bedroom. Aren't you afraid of what people might say? He deliberately stressed the last few words. Seraphina's eyes instantly turned glacial. Are you threatening me? I'm just stating the facts. Jackson threw his hands up. Besides, if I'm sleeping here, what if in the middle of the night? I can't control myself. His words were laced with a roguish provocation. He expected her to fly into a rage, to call her bodyguards, and have him dragged out. However, Seraphina just stared at him silently for 3 seconds. Then she smiled. It was a cold smile, filled with utter contempt and ridicule. You. She said only one word, but the disdain packed into that single word was more insulting than 1,000 curses. It was as if to say, someone like you? You think you're worthy? Jackson was so choked by that one word he almost passed out. What a monumental insult. In his past life, he was a dashing and successful surgeon. When had he ever been humiliated like this? Fine. Jackson gritted his teeth. I'll sleep here. But Ms. Vance, I'm a restless sleeper. If I start sleepwalking and end up in your bed, don't blame me. He was deliberately making threats. Seraphina didn't even bother to look up. She picked up a financial report, written entirely in English, from her nightstand and said coolly, my bed is equipped with a bioelectric field sensor. Any unauthorized life form that approaches will trigger a 380-volt shock. Jackson, you win. Furthermore, Seraphina continued, flipping a page without looking up, your bed has one too. It activates automatically at 10 p.m. So, I advise you to sleep soundly. Jackson was completely out of arguments. This wasn't a bedroom. It was a prison cell crisscrossed with an electric grid. Go take a shower, Serafina ordered dismissively. I detest the smell of sweat. Fuming, Jackson had no choice but to grab his clothes and shuffle off to the small servant's bathroom. 9:50 p.m. Jackson, freshly showered and dressed in a set of ridiculously comfortable cotton pajamas of some unknown brand, lay on the small single bed. The bed might be small, but the mattress and sheets were top of the line. Damn capitalists, he muttered under his breath. Only a dim wall lamp was lit in the bedroom. Serafina was still engrossed in her documents, as if she were a robot that didn't require rest. Jackson ignored her, closed his eyes, and prepared to sleep. But just as he closed them, his eyes snapped open again. System, he called out in his mind, lying on the bed. What's the deal with that physical constitution enhancement, beginner? I haven't done my daily check-in yet. Ding. Host request detected. Daily check-in system activated. Today's check-in location. Serafina Vance's bedroom. Achieved. Check-in reward. All-seeing eye beginner. Holy crap. Jackson was so excited he nearly leaped off the bed. X-ray vision. Isn't this the standard issue power for every urban fantasy protagonist? All-seeing eye. Beginner allows sight through non-living obstacles. E.g. clothing, walls, jade. Effective range. 10 meters. Note. Cannot be used directly on the human body. The flame of excitement that had just ignited in Jackson was promptly snuffed out by the fine print. Can't use it on people? Then what's the damn point? Host. The all-seeing eye is the ultimate form of the master healer's observation technique. It can be used to see lesions and examine meridians. Please do not harbor improper thoughts. Whatever. Jackson cursed under his breath. But he couldn't resist. He quietly activated the all-seeing eye. Instantly, his world transformed. The walls became semi-transparent structures. He could see the steel rebar and electrical wiring inside them, and even see into the next room. Wait, the next room? That was Lila Reed's room. Jackson's gaze accidentally swept over. Lila, in a bathrobe, was putting on a face mask. Ahem. Jackson quickly averted his gaze. See no evil, see no evil. He said it aloud, but inwardly he was thrilled. This ability was incredible. He then accidentally glanced towards Serafina. The system said it couldn't be used on a human body, and sure enough, all he saw was a blurry, human-shaped aura. Nothing was clear. TCH, useless system. He was about to deactivate the ability when his gaze accidentally passed over the safe next to Serafina's bed. Ding. High-density alloy detected. Jackson's interest was piqued. He focused his mind, pushing his all-seeing eye. The metal shell of the safe slowly became transparent. Inside, there were no gold bars, no diamonds. Only a single, yellowed medical file, and a black and white photograph. In the photo, a woman with a gentle smile was holding a 5- or 6-year-old girl. That little girl was unmistakably a miniature version of Serafina, her mother. Just as Jackson tried to get a closer look suddenly. What are you looking at? Serafina's icy voice cut through the silence. Jackson flinched, quickly deactivating his power, his heart pounding. And nothing. Just admiring the ceiling. Serafina's sharp eyes stared at him, as if trying to see into his very soul. You'd better be. She looked away, but the suspicion in her eyes only deepened. Ah! Just then, Serafina let out another pain grunt. Her body once again curled up violently, the documents in her hand scattering to the floor. Again, Jackson was shocked. How could? I just took the sedative. Serafina gritted her teeth, her face even paler than it had been in the pool. Ms. Vance. Jackson forgot all about the high-voltage bed. He leaped up and rushed over. ZZ. A faint electric current zapped him from the side of the bed, making him flinch, but it wasn't powerful. Damn, she was bluffing. Get away. Serafina was trembling in agony, the cold energy from her body even more intense than before. Ms. Vance, this isn't a normal flare-up. In his urgency, Jackson grabbed her wrist and activated his all-seeing eye at the same time. This time, he wasn't looking at the surface. He was looking for the source of the illness. All-seeing eye activated. Lesion scan initiated. Instantly, Serafina's body transformed in his eyes into a perfect map of human meridians. And he saw it. Near her heart, the black, cold energy was no longer rampaging randomly. It had coalesced into an ice needle. That needle was stabbing viciously at her heart meridian. Holy crap! The cold toxin formed a needle. This is lethal. Jackson's scalp went numb. This was beyond what his divine touch could handle. Ms. Vance, my apologies. Jackson yelled. Without thinking, he lifted Serafina off the bed and helped her into a cross-legged sitting position. You, Let go of me. Seraphina was furious and mortified, but she had no strength to resist. Don't move. Jackson's face was deadly serious. If you want to live, you'll listen to me. He moved behind her, sat cross-legged, and pressed both of his palms firmly against her smooth back. This is beyond what a massage can fix. Jackson's voice was graver than ever. The cold toxin has solidified. I have to use my inner energy to force it out for you. Inner energy. Seraphina was on the verge of fainting, her consciousness already fading. Yes. Jackson took a deep breath, mobilizing the faint trace of physical enhancement energy the system had awarded him. The system never called it inner energy, but it was all he had to bluff with right now. This is what I call deep impact therapy. It might feel a little different. Jackson's hands were no longer massaging. They felt like two branding irons pressed firmly against her back. A current of warmth, far more potent and scorching than what she felt in the pool, surged into Seraphina's body. NGH. Seraphina's body jolted as if electrocuted. 6. This wave of warmth was completely different from the one in the pool. If the daytime divine touch was a gentle hot spring, then what was now flowing from Jackson's palms was molten lava, overpowering, scorching. Seraphina's body trembled violently. The searing energy surged into her frozen meridians like a red-hot poker plunged into a block of ice. SSSSS. She could almost hear the sound of the cold energy in her body being vaporized. One half of her was an ice cavern, the other a furnace. The extreme agony almost made her pass out on the spot. Endure it. Jackson's voice roared in her ear, filled with an undeniable authority. Guard your mind. Guide that cold energy towards my palms. Jackson wasn't having an easy time either. His pathetic sliver of inner energy was like a pebble against the mountain of Seraphina's massive frost shard curse. He was relying entirely on his all-seeing eye to lock onto that ice needle, and was slamming it with every bit of energy he had. Break! Jackson gritted his teeth, focusing all his power into a single point. Tooey! Seraphina's mouth flew open, and she spat out a mouthful of black, ice-flecked, fresh blood. The blood splattered onto the expensive Persian rug, instantly freezing a large patch of it solid. The moment she coughed up that blood, Seraphina felt her entire body relax. The bone-piercing chill that had resided in her body for over 20 years, that had tortured her for over 20 years, had actually dissipated. Though her body was still cold, the deep, soul-crushing pain was gone. She went limp and collapsed backward, right into Jackson's arms. Jackson had also exhausted all his strength. He sat heavily on the floor, holding the warm, soft body in his arms, gasping for breath. Ding! Emergency quest completed. Host has forcibly overdrawn physical potential, using divine touch, mutated, to successfully defeat the frost shard curse, needle form. Evaluation, S rank, beyond limits. Distributing reward. Pure yang energy, beginner. Distributing reward. Host physical constitution enhancement, intermediate. Holy crap, an S rank evaluation. And it gave me pure yang energy? Jackson felt a warm current rise from his core, instantly spreading through his entire body. The previous exhaustion was swept away. His strength and speed had surged again. He could feel that his physical constitution was now at least 3 times that of a normal person. And what's more, he now had chi inside him. That sliver of pure yang energy was minuscule, but it was incredibly pure, the perfect nemesis for the frost shard curse. What is this? In his arms, Seraphina slowly regained consciousness. The first thing she did wasn't to push Jackson away, but to lift her own hand. Her hand was shaking, not from the cold, but from excitement. It doesn't hurt. It really doesn't hurt anymore, she murmured to herself as 2 streams of clear tears flowed, without warning, from her icy eyes. 22 years. From the day she was cursed by that enemy at the age of 5, there hadn't been a single day she was free from pain. She had forgotten what warmth felt like, forgotten the meaning of the word comfort. She thought she was destined to slowly die in this eternal torment. But now, she looked at the man before her, panting, drenched in sweat, but with eyes that burned frighteningly bright. This man, whom she had scornfully dismissed just that afternoon. He had actually done it. Ahem. Jackson felt a little unnerved by her stare. Ms. Vance, could you maybe get off me first? You're crushing me. Seraphina's face instantly reverted to its icy mask. She pushed herself up from his lap, pulled the blanket around herself, and turned her back to him, her voice hoarse. Get back to your bed. Oh. Jackson pouted and climbed up from the floor. Ms. Vance, about my medical fee. Shut up. Yes, sir. Jackson obediently scurried back to his little bed. He could feel that Seraphina's breathing was erratic. This woman of ice, her heart was in turmoil. They didn't speak for the rest of the night, but Jackson knew everything had changed. The next morning, Jackson opened his eyes, feeling refreshed and invigorated. Seraphina was no longer in the bedroom. Ding. It's a new day. Commence daily check-in. Check-in. Check-in location. Vance Estate. Achieved. Congratulations, host. You have acquired the Herbalist Codex, Fragment I. A massive stream of information flowed into Jackson's mind. It was all about the identification, properties, and formulas for various rare medicinal herbs. Holy crap. Is this system trying to get me into alchemy? As Jackson was getting excited, there was a knock on the door. It was Lila. Good morning, Mr. Cole. Lila's attitude today was one of 120-degree reverence. She looked at him as if he were a living god. Ms. Vance has already left for the office. She instructed me that, starting today, you have a level clearance at the Vance Estate. A level clearance? What does that mean? It means that, aside from Ms. Vance's bedroom and study, you are free to go anywhere in the estate. All bodyguards and staff must obey your orders. Jackson's eyes lit up. What about that security chief, Mace Hogan? Lila paused for a second, then replied respectfully, he is included as well. Yeah. Jackson grinned like a fox that had gotten into the henhouse. Additionally, Lila handed him a black card. This is some pocket money from Ms. Vance. There is no limit. Your monthly salary, starting today, has been raised to $5 million. Jackson's hand trembled slightly. Ms. Reed, please thank Ms. Vance for me. Jackson accepted the black card with a look of feigned nonchalance. By the way, I need some herbs. Herbs. Lila quickly pulled out a tablet. Name them, and I'll procure them immediately. It's not much. Jackson recited a beginner's formula for a core-strengthening powder from the Codex. Just a 300-year-old wild ginseng, 200-year-old FOTI roots, and a snow lotus from the Himalayas. As Lila wrote, her hand started to shake. This wasn't much. Every single one of these items was a priceless treasure that you couldn't just buy. Mr. Cole, can they even be purchased? You can't buy them? Jackson frowned. What we did last night was only a temporary fix for Ms. Vance's condition. This cold toxin has been in her body for 20 years. It's deeply rooted. We must use these herbs to fortify her core to eradicate it completely. I don't care what methods you use. I want to see these herbs within 3 days, Jackson said coolly, mimicking Seraphina's tone. Yes, I'll see to it at once. Lila flinched and hurried off to carry out his order. After sending Lila away, Jackson was in a great mood and decided to wander around the estate. He strolled over to the training grounds, where Mace Hogan was leading a group of men in boxing drills. Hey, Captain Hogan, morning. Jackson sauntered over. Mace saw him, frowned, and snorted, ignoring him. This pretty boy actually managed to move into the boss's bedroom. Shameless. Captain, your form. It's all wrong, Jackson said, hands behind his back, shaking his head. Kid, what did you just say? Mace exploded. A pretty boy who lived off a woman had the gall to critique him. A Delta Force veteran? I said, your punches lack follow-through, Jackson smiled. That piece of shrapnel, 3 inches below your left shoulder, it's pressing on a nerve. If you keep training like this, that left arm of yours will be useless within a year. Mace's expression changed instantly. How did you know that? That injury was from his time on the battlefield. It was a top-level secret. Only he and Ms. Vance knew about it. Jackson smiled without a word and slowly walked closer. Wanted to fix it. He held up a single finger. First, call me Sir 7. The training ground fell into a dead silence. All the bodyguards stopped, staring in disbelief. This new pretty boy was actually trying to extort their boss? Mace's face turned beet red. His massive eyes, wide as saucers, glared at Jackson, his fists clenching so hard they cracked, as if he were about to twist Jackson's head off. Kid, you got a death wish. Mace roared, his fist, the size of a small ham, whistling through the air straight for Jackson's face. It's over. All the bodyguards shut their eyes. That punch would leave the pretty boy maimed, if not dead. However, the expected scream of pain never came. Jackson simply extended 2 fingers with an air of casualness. Smack! With a crisp sound, Mace's powerful punch was caught securely between those 2 slender, seemingly weak fingers. Mace's eyes nearly bulged out of their sockets. How? How was this possible? His punch had over 500 pounds of force. It could shatter stone. He tried to pull his fist back, only to find his wrist caught, as if in a steel vise, completely immobile. Captain, such a temper. It's bad for the liver. Jackson smiled, his fingers twisting slightly. Crack, a soft sound of a dislocated joint. Act. Mace let out a blood-curdling scream and fell to one knee with a thud, cold sweat instantly pouring down his face. Boss, let the captain go. The surrounding bodyguards, shocked, started to move in. Don't move. Mace roared through the pain. He wasn't an idiot. From that one move, he knew he and this pretty boy were in completely different leagues. This was a Master. Mr. Cole. Mace gritted his teeth, forcing the words out. I was wrong. Please, have mercy. Should have said so earlier. Jackson released his fingers. Mace's wrist was already starting to swell. Mace was both shocked and furious. Don't be hasty. Jackson squatted down, patted his shoulder, and sent a sliver of pure yang energy through his palm. Mace felt a warm current flow into him, and the sharp pain in his wrist vanished instantly. He looked up stunned. Jackson ignored him. His fingers moved like lightning, tapping 3 times on Mace's left shoulder. Tui. Mace felt something rise in his throat, and he spat out a piece of shrapnel coated in black blood, the same piece of shrapnel that had tormented him for 5 long years. This. Mace touched his shoulder, which now felt incredibly light. He was completely dumbfounded. Was this healing? The work of a god? Thud. In the next second, this hardened soldier, this king of operators, dropped to both knees without hesitation. Sir. Mace slammed his forehead to the ground twice, his voice cracking with emotion. Sir, you've given me a new lease on life. Jackson, there's really no need for all this. Ding. Congratulations, host, for subjugating Mace Hogan, key supporting character. Reward, Bajiquin proficient. A massive amount of combat knowledge flooded his mind. Jackson's body instantly mastered this fierce and domineering martial art. All right, get up. Jackson helped him up. From now on, do a good job watching the door. Yes, sir. Mace wiped his eyes, stood up, and took his place respectfully behind Jackson. The surrounding bodyguards didn't dare to breathe. Even Mace had been taken down in a single move. What kind of monster was this, sir? Meanwhile, New York City, Vance Corporation headquarters, top-floor conference room. The atmosphere was incredibly tense. Serafina sat at the head of the table. Her face was as cold as ever, but anyone who knew her could see a subtle difference. Today, for the first time in ages, she was not in her wheelchair. Although she just sat there silently, her intangible aura was more powerful than ever before. Serafina, a middle-aged man with gold-rimmed glasses and a seemingly refined demeanor, spoke with a smile. He was Arthur Sterling, the vice president of Vance Corp. I heard you haven't been feeling well recently, Arthur said with a sly grin. The entire corporation depends on you. If you were to collapse, what will we do? His words were dripping with sarcasm, a clear attempt to test her. In the conference room, several other board members also wore expressions of amusement. The secret of Serafina's frost shard curse was no longer a secret in their circle. They were all just waiting for her to die. I appreciate your concern, Arthur, Serafina said coolly. My health is perfectly fine. Yours, on the other hand. I heard your son lost $300 million in Macau last month. Arthur's smile froze on his face. Serafina, that's a family matter. You needn't concern yourself with it. Is that so? Serafina picked up a file and tossed it onto the table. You embezzled corporate funds to cover your son's gambling debts. Is that also a family matter? Boom. Arthur's mind went blank. You're slandering me. He shot to his feet, his bravado failing him. Don't get excited, Arthur. Serafina steepled her fingers on the table. I'll give you a chance. Get out of this conference room right now and resign. If you do, I won't press criminal charges. Arthur was trembling with rage. He never imagined Serafina would have proof. He looked around at the other board members, those who were his allies just yesterday, who were now all staring at their shoes, pretending to be invisible. Fine. Serafina Vance, you're ruthless. Arthur knew he was finished. He pointed a trembling finger at her, his face contorted in a vicious snarl. Don't get cocky. Your frost shard curse is incurable. How many days do you have left? I'll wait. I'll be waiting to attend your funeral. Annoying. Serafina's brow furrowed slightly. Bang! The conference room door was kicked open. Who the hell dares to curse our CEO? A powerful voice roared. Everyone turned in shock. Jackson Cole, dressed in casual clothes with a toothpick dangling from his lips, strolled in with a swagger. Following behind him was the grim-faced head of security, Mace Hogan. Who are you? Arthur was stunned. Security? Security, get this punk out of here. Mr. Sterling, quite the big shot, aren't you? Jackson sauntered over to Serafina's side and casually rested his hand on the back of her chair with an air of intimacy. I'm the CEO's personal physician. Serafina's body stiffened for a moment. A complex emotion flickered in her icy eyes. She didn't push him away. Every board member in the room looked like their eyes were about to fall out of their sockets. Oh my God, the Ice Queen, Serafina Vance, was actually letting a man get that close to her. Had health frozen over? Arthur was also stunned, but he quickly realized this was his last chance. He pointed at Jackson and burst into maniacal laughter. Ha ha, Serafina. Oh, Serafina, how far you fallen? You actually have the audacity to keep a boy toy? You're finished. If word of this gets out, the company's stock will plummet tomorrow. Slap. A crisp, clear slap echoed through the room. The one who struck was a mace. It was Serafina. She had stood up. Before the shocked eyes of everyone present, she rose to her feet and delivered a vicious slap across Arthur's face. You dare touch my man? 8. Silence. A dead, suffocating silence. You could hear a pin drop in the conference room. Every board member, including the utterly stunned Arthur, looked as if they had been turned to stone, their eyes wide with disbelief. What did they just see? Serafina stood up. The queen, who was rumored to be so tortured by the frost shard curse that she was confined to a wheelchair for the rest of her days. She actually stood up. Your legs. Arthur clutched his burning face, pointing at Serafina, stammering, unable to form a complete sentence. Surprised? Serafina's voice was still ice. But within that coldness there was a newfound authority. She just stood there. Though her frame was still slender, in the eyes of everyone present, she seemed as immovable as a mountain. Her icy gaze slowly swept over every person in the room. Arthur Sterling, for embezzlement of public funds, you will be handed over to the authorities, effective immediately. Director Wong, for the fraudulent accounts you cooked up last quarter, I'm giving you 3 days to fix the deficit. Mr. Lee, that mistress of yours in North America, keep her mouth shut. With every name she called, the person would flinch, their face growing paler. This was a purge. Serafina, the queen who had endured for so many years, had finally, upon standing up, bared her sharpest fangs. Also, her gaze finally landed on Jackson. He was nonchalantly enjoying the drama of the CEO's triumphant return. Jackson Cole. Here. Jackson instinctively straightened up. He, from this day forward, is my man. Uffed. The sip of tea Jackson had just taken sprayed out of his mouth. Cough, cough. MMS. Vance, what? What kind of joke is this? Do I look like I'm joking? Serafina turned her head, her icy eyes locking onto him. You cured me. For that kindness, I, Serafina Vance, will repay my debt. I will guarantee you a lifetime of glory and wealth. Jackson was dumbfounded. Every board member in the room was also dumbfounded. What the hell kind of plot twist was this? She gets cured, and so she offers herself in return. And no, Ms. Vance, this is against company policy. One director timidly raised his hand. My word is the policy. With that, Serafina grabbed the still reeling Jackson and turned to leave. Mace, clear the room. Yes, Ms. Vance. Mace grinned viciously, and with his men, dragged the limp form of Arthur Sterling out like a sack of potatoes. Inside the CEO's private elevator, Jackson looked at the reflection of himself and Serafina standing side by side in the mirrored walls, feeling like he was in a dream. So, Ms. Vance, HM, were you serious just now? About which part? My man part. What do you think? Serafina retorted, her face a mask. I think you're using me, Jackson pouted. You just put a giant target on my back. Your board of directors is going to want to eat me alive. Her voice wasn't loud, but it carried the imperiousness of a declaration of sovereignty. You cured me. From this day on, you are the greatest benefactor of the Vance Corporation. She paused, turning her head slightly. For the first time, a flicker of something stirred in her obsidian eyes. Besides, it wasn't lying. Huh, I said Serafina Vance, would guarantee you a lifetime of glory and wealth. Being my man is the fastest and most secure way to achieve that. Jackson, this woman's logic was definitely not on the same plane as normal people's. Ding, the elevator arrived. Serafina strode out first. Her steps were still a bit unsteady, but she was walking. Jackson quickly followed. Ms. Vance, don't celebrate too early. Jackson caught up to her in the parking garage, grabbing her wrist. Serafina's body went rigid. She tried to pull away, but Jackson's grip was like a steel clamp. What are you doing? Let go. Her voice turned cold again. Ms. Vance, listen to me. Jackson's expression was more serious than ever before. He activated his all-seeing eye and scanned her body again. Your condition. It isn't an illness. Seraphina's pupils contracted violently. What? What do you mean? Last night, what I forced out of you wasn't a cold toxin. It was more like a mark. Jackson's mind recalled a passage from the Herbalist's Codex. If I'm not mistaken, your frost shard curse was put on you by someone. Boom! A roar filled Seraphina's mind. Say that again. Her voice was trembling. It's an extremely malicious curse sigil. Jackson said, enunciating every word. The person who cast it implanted a sub-sigil into your heart meridian when you were 5 years old. This sigil continuously drains your life force and converts it into cold toxin. Last night, I only shattered the ice needle it had formed, but the sub-sigil is still there. The color drained from Seraphina's face. Man-made. It really was man-made. She murmured, swaying on her feet. How could you possibly know all this? She snapped her head up, staring at Jackson. Don't worry about how I know, Jackson said gravely. Right now, you're in serious danger. Because when I shattered the ice needle last night, the person who cast the curse would have felt it. He will come for you. Or rather, Jackson's gaze grew heavy. He'll come for me. The air left Seraphina's lungs. He'll come for you. Yes. Jackson released her hand, his expression grim. I'm the one who upset the balance. To keep control over you, he has to get rid of me first. Seraphina's heart sank. She wasn't worried about herself. She was worried about this man. The thought barely surfaced before she ruthlessly suppressed it. Are you afraid? She asked coldly. Afraid? Jackson laughed. Afraid of what? I've already died once. What's there to be afraid of? He flexed his wrists, his joints cracking loudly. I'm just wondering when he'll show up. A flicker of excitement glinted in Jackson's eyes. He had just acquired Bejequin and pure yang energy and was itching for a chance to test them out. You? Seraphina looked at his eager expression, momentarily at a loss for words. Was this man a lunatic, or was he truly that confident? Get in the car, she said, pulling open the door. We're going back to the estate. Until we figure this out, you are not to leave my side. Hey, Ms. Vance, are you trying to protect me? Jackson sat down in the passenger seat with a smirk. Seraphina slammed the door shut. I'm trying to protect my cure from being broken. The Rolls-Royce sped back towards the estate. The atmosphere inside the car was suffocatingly tense. Jackson had his eyes closed, meditating. He was familiarizing himself with the newborn pure yang energy in his body and the principles of Bejequin. Seraphina was on the phone, her voice bone-chillingly cold. Activate Shadow Cell Alpha Team. I want a full investigation. 22 years ago, every single person who had contact with me. I don't want anyone missed. That's right. Turn over every stone if you have to. Find me that person. Hanging up, she rubbed her temples, feeling a wave of exhaustion. This secret had weighed on her for too long. Ms. Vance, Jackson suddenly opened his eyes. When you were 5, did you happen to visit Shadowfall Mountain? Jackson had found a reference to the Frost Curse Sigil in the Herbalist's Codex. This type of curse could only be cast in a place of extreme yin energy. Seraphina's body jolted. She whipped her head around to look at Jackson in horror. How did you know that? Shadowfall Mountain. It was her childhood nightmare. She remembered when she was 5, she had been, yes, carried away by an old man in a Taoist robe. When her family found her, she was unconscious in a cave, her body freezing cold. After that, the Frost Shard curse began. I knew it. Jackson's face was grim. Ms. Vance, we're in big trouble. Shadowfall Mountain is the territory of the Esoteric Order. The Esoteric Order. Seraphina frowned. What's that? An organization that doesn't belong to this world, was the only way Jackson could explain it. In short, the person who cursed you is no ordinary man. He's a cultivator. Absurd. Seraphina retorted instinctively. Is the territory of the Esoteric Order. The Esoteric Order. Seraphina frowned. What's that? An organization that doesn't belong to this world, was the only way Jackson could explain it. In short, the person who cursed you is no ordinary man. He's a cultivator. Absurd. Seraphina retorted instinctively. This is the 21st century. There's no such thing as... Boom! Before she could finish her sentence, a deafening crash came from the side. An out-of-control 18-wheeler, like a rampaging bull, slammed into the side of their Rolls-Royce. Look out! Jackson's reaction time surpassed human limits. In the 1 second before the truck hit, he let out a roar. The pure yang energy and Bajiquin power in his body exploded. With one punch, he shattered the front windshield. With his other arm, he wrapped around Seraphina's waist, shielding her tightly in his embrace. Baji, Iron Mountain charge. He used his own back to slam into the door of the Rolls-Royce. Crunch. Under the immense impact, the entire car was sent flying, flipping over and rolling 7 or 8 times before crumpling into a heap of scrap metal. Cough. Jackson, holding Seraphina, rolled out of the shattered window, a spray of blood erupting from his mouth onto her face. It was warm and metallic. Seraphina was in complete shock. She stared at Jackson's face, inches from her own, contorted in pain but still shielding her fiercely. Her heart felt as if it had been seized by a powerful force. Cough. Damn it, that really hurt. Jackson spat out a mouthful of blood and struggled to his feet. If it weren't for the physical constitution enhancement, intermediate, and the pure yang energy protecting his body, he would have been turned into paste. Are you okay? Seraphina's voice trembled. Not dead yet. Jackson had just finished speaking when his pupils contracted. From the driver's cabin of the heavy truck, an old man in a black Taoist robe with a gaunt face slowly climbed out. In his hand, he held a peach wood sword. The old man let out a chilling laugh like a screech owl, his murky eyes fixed on Jackson. A feisty little pure yang boy. To think you could break my frost shard subsigil. Interesting. It was you. Seeing that face, Seraphina was instantly plunged back into her 22-year-old nightmare. It was him, the old Taoist who had taken her. Little girl of the Vance family. We meet again. The old Taoist grinned, revealing a mouth full of yellow teeth. Originally, you had 3 more years to live. A pity you had to court death and find yourself such a cure. You've ruined my grand plan. Today you both must die. With that, the old Taoist pointed his peachwood sword at Jackson. Go. Vim. Jackson felt an intensely cold, sinister energy lock onto him. Not good. He shoved Seraphina away. Run. Mace. Protect Ms. Vance. Bang. 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 The escort car behind them had finally reacted. Mace and his men charged out, firing wildly at the old Taoist. However, the bullets seemed to vanish as they hit the old man, not even piercing his robe. A bunch of ants. The old Taoist waved his sleeve impatiently. Whoosh! A black wind swept past. Mace and a dozen other bodyguards were instantly frozen into ice sculptures, their shooting stances preserved before they fell to the ground and shattered into icy fragments. Mace! Seraphina's eyes widened in horror. Ha ha ha! The old Taoist laughed maniacally. You're next. He walked, step by step, towards the terrified Seraphina. Don't come any closer. Old bastard! A furious roar erupted. Jackson stood in front of Seraphina. He wiped the blood from his lips, his eyes showing no fear, only a crazed fighting spirit. Damn it, today, I'm going to see for myself whether your damn magic is stronger or my fists are harder. Ding. Host has encountered a fatal threat. Final system quest, Slay the Demon, has been activated. Quest description. The opponent is a renegade from the Esoteric Order, Cryos the Frost Alchemist. He is the one who cursed Seraphina Vance. Quest requirement. Kill him. Quest reward. Divine Touch. Ultimate. Pure Yang energy perfected. Bring it on. Jackson roared, the pure Yang energy in his body churning wildly. Ms. Vance, this might be my last treatment for you. You'll have to bear with it. Before the words had faded, he suddenly spun around, and before Seraphina could react, he kissed her on the lips. MNPH. Seraphina's eyes shot wide open. Jackson was kissing her. Ding. Pure Yang energy has triggered yin-yang harmony, passive. An incredibly pure stream of pure Yang Qi surged through their lips, pouring madly into Seraphina's body. And within her, the deeply hidden frost shard subsigil, stimulated by the pure Yang Qi, also erupted violently. One yin, one yang. 2 forces within Seraphina's body achieved their final union. Boom! Seraphina felt a world-destroying power explode within her. Her frost shard curse, at this moment, was completely healed. Time seemed to stand still. Seraphina felt as if her body were a powder keg that had just been lit. The entire energy of the frost shard subsigil, detonated by Jackson's pure yang kiss, was then assimilated as her own. Boom! A powerful shockwave radiated out from her. WH what? The smile on Cryos' face froze solid. He felt it. The frost shard subsigil he had personally implanted had vanished. No, not vanished. It had been absorbed by this girl. This is impossible. Cryos shrieked in terror. Yin-yang harmony. A pure yang body. You actually possess a pure yang body? He stared at Jackson, and for the first time his eyes showed fear. The frost curse sigil was the ultimate yin, the ultimate cold. Its only nemesis was a pure yang body. He had calculated everything, but he had never calculated that the cure Seraphina found would be a 1 in a million pure yang body. He had certainly never calculated that this kid would dare to use the yin-yang harmony method to forcibly detonate the cursed sigil. With that one move, not only had he failed to kill Seraphina, but he had actually helped her convert 20 years of cold toxin into her very own frost shard inner energy. Tui, the backlash hit Cryos, and he violently coughed up a mouthful of blood. B-boy, I'll take your life. He was crazed. He brandished his peachwood sword, and despite his heavy injuries, lunged at Jackson. Jackson, watch out! Seraphina cried out. She tried to move, but found her body was limp, devoid of strength. It was the period of weakness following a massive energy surge. Too late. Cryos sneered. The peachwood sword aimed straight for Jackson's heart. Is it? Jackson slowly raised his head. He wiped the corner of his mouth. Was it a lipstick stain? Old man, you interrupted me. He looked at the incoming sword, made no move to dodge, and slowly raised a fist. Ding. Pure yang energy, perfected, has been activated. Bajiquin, proficient, has been activated. Baji, mountain breaker. Jackson's punch seemed slow, but in Cryos' eyes, that single punch seemed to seal off all avenues of escape. That punch was fate itself. No. Crack. The fist and the peachwood sword collided. There was no earth-shattering boom. Snap. The peachwood sword shattered piece by piece. Crack. Crack. A sound like popping popcorn came from Cryos' arm, shoulder, sternum. His body, like a shattered porcelain doll, was sent flying backward, slamming hard into the wrecked truck. He stared at Jackson, his eyes full of disbelief. You are also from the esoteric. Before he could finish, his head lolled to the side, and he breathed his last. Ding. Final quest, Slay the Demon, has been completed. Congratulations, host. You have acquired Divine Touch, Ultimate. Jackson let out a long breath and was overcome by a dizzy spell. That kiss had also drained him of all his pure yang energy. He swayed, and with a thud, collapsed to the ground, unconscious. In the final second before he blacked out, he thought he felt himself fall into that cold but very fragrant embrace once again. 3 days later, the Vance estate, in that familiar bedroom. Jackson opened his eyes. Water. He had just croaked out the word when a glass of warm water was already at his lips. MMS. Vance. Jackson was stunned. Seraphina, dressed in a simple white dress for staying at home, was sitting by his bed, personally, feeding him water. You're awake. Her voice was still cool, but in those icy eyes, there was a flicker of a complex emotion Jackson couldn't decipher. How long was I out? 3 days and 3 nights. Mace and the others. They're all gone. Seraphina's voice dropped. Cryos was an A-list fugitive. People from the Esoteric Order have already taken over the case. They'll handle the aftermath. The Esoteric Order. Jackson hadn't realized they had an official branch. Seraphina looked at him, hesitating. What about me? Who? Are you really? This was the question that Seraphina most wanted to know the answer to right now. This man had crashed into her world like a mystery. He knew massage, had inner energy, could use Bajiquin, and possessed a pure yang body. Who in the world was he? Jackson looked into her probing eyes and smiled. Me. He propped himself up, leaned close to her ear, and said in a voice only the two of them could hear, a playful smirk on his face. Didn't I tell you already? I'm your man. Seraphina's ears, in an instant, turned bright red. Pervert. She wanted to curse him, but then she remembered the scene of the car crash 3 days ago, the way this man had shielded her with his own body. She remembered that. Domineering, scorching hot kiss. And her heart, which had been frozen for 22 years for the first time, was beating so fast,